Hi everyone, my name is Michael Hilbert and I am presenting today to talk about a very important issue in the technological world, open source. When browsing the web or using an online application on your desktop, have you ever noticed a flaw with something you are using or noticed a change that could improve the productivity or feel of the program? Thanks to open source, you can now be your own programmer. With open source computing, you have the ability to make the changes you want to see in a program and upload the new improvement yourself. You may be wondering what open source actually is, or what its purpose might be. Open source software is a public platform that can be accessed by anyone and gives users the rights to change, study, and share such software anywhere for any purpose. This allows for a diverse amount of variation and ideas to be submitted into programs that could have not been captured without public software. In this presentation, I'll discuss three main points to help grow your understanding of the technological breakthrough that is open source. First, I'll give a detailed explanation of how open source is made possible. Next, I will show how open source is spread across the internet by citing specific applications that can use open source. Lastly, I will touch on the benefits of open source and why open source computing is a positive improvement for programmers and users alike. If someone wants to truly appreciate open source, they must understand how it works and how anyone can use it. The source code becomes the key to this technological advancement once it is open. Once users know that a program has an open source code, they can then use basic coding to edit the characteristics of each program. As stated before, open source computing would be completely impossible without an open source code. A source code is the basic makeup of each piece of software that dictates how each unique program works and functions. Usually, the source code is something that most users of the program would never see. With an open source program, a certain type of license makes the source code of a program available to the public with relaxed or no copyright restrictions whatsoever. However, open source doesn't just mean access to the source code. It means that anyone should be able to modify the source code to suit his or her needs, and that no one should prevent others from doing the same. In other words, computer programmers can access, view, and modify open source software whenever they like, as long as they let others do the same when they share their work. Now that I've explained how open source is possible, let me explain some of the many programs that open source is used within. Although operating systems, website software, internet applications, and IT security apps are some of the most popular types of programs that use open source, there are a number of other types of programs that do the same. Since an operating system is the system that supports a computer's basic functions, it is imperative to know the impact that open source programming has on a number of OS softwares. Linux, the operating system that is highly considered to be one of the birthplaces of open source, and Android are all customizable through open source computing. Users of these systems can choose core components such as which system displays graphics and other user interface components. In addition, website software breeds a large amount of open source programs. Apache, a web server software, and Magento, an e-commerce website platform, are both open source. Users who utilize these sites on their web browsers connect to a global network of computers that routes and transmits their data to local devices they have in front of them. The internet in general, along with its many internet applications, is witnessing the open source movement. Mozilla Firefox, one of the most popular web browsers in the world, proudly uses open source. MediaWiki, an information sharing platform, is considered the open source version of Wikipedia. Even software as crucial and vital as IT security can benefit from the improvements made through open source. Smoothwall, a type of firewall with other various security tools, and ClamAV, a form of antivirus software, are proud supporters of open sources. Now that we have seen how open source works and where it is used across computing, it is important to understand why open source should be used and spread. Control, programming growth, individualization, and feedback are all crucial to the support of open source computing. With open source, all users who have access to the source code can hold a better grasp on the programs they enjoy. If a user sees a problem or error inside a certain software, they no longer only have the option of notifying the original creator of the program and hope that the original programmer will reciprocate. Instead, users can now change the problems almost instantly as they see fit. With the growing availability of open source software, basic users of computers may be inclined to learn how to program themselves with the new opportunities for coding that are now presented. While open source challenges users to educate themselves in the skill of programming, the world may find an increase in the number of programmers worldwide, which could in turn improve future programs that have never been created without the influx of the new programmers. Sometimes users may not find a definite problem within a certain software, but may prefer to run the program in a certain way. With open source computing, users now have the option to modify programs to cater their own preferences, which further improves the enjoyment and ease users have while using open source programs. When programmers give out licenses to their source code, they are exposed to the feedback and criticisms that potentially thousands of users have on their work. When users improve the software that creators have made, the original programmers can find the mistakes they have and how to advance their programming skills with those changes. Overall, we have covered 3 important topics regarding open source. Those were the description of how open source becomes possible and what its purpose is, the applications that open source programming can improve in today's software, and the advantages the computing world has when it uses open source. Why should we care about it now? Well, if the uses of open source continue to provide great stride for programs across the computing world, it could be argued that open source would become the norm for every piece of software and program imaginable. Someday, maybe all computer users could add to the quality and possibilities we have with computers. That is all I have for you on open source. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.